Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Nearly senior citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends. And welcome to this, a brand new day. And remember, no matter who you are valid. It is a day out there. I went for walkies this morning, and it is gray, and at the time, gray and misting, so I had to open my umbrella periodically, and at the same time, it was warm and humid. So I went out with just a thin t-shirt, but with an overcast sky and rain, and it felt weird. So thumbs up. But it's been a day, and then I came back and I fell asleep in my chair for a while. Combination of gluten coma and just the catching up from my insomnia that I'd been having. I say gluten coma because a low fiber food is bread. I don't have a whole lot of solids that I can eat right now. Solids, since I'm supposed to be on a low fiber diet, and tomorrow I'm on a liquid diet, and then tomorrow evening I have to guzzle half a bottle of this laxative. Oh boy. And then I've got the ride all ready to get there on Thursday, so yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm all frazzled by it. There's also not a whole lot I can eat. Sometimes I can eat like just meat by itself, like when I had a rotisserie chicken here, because I'd never had a rotisserie chicken before. I bought one and I ate it in here, and I even made a video about it. That was okay. Under normal circumstances, though, I can't just eat chicken by itself. It has to be in something. I can't just eat beef by itself. It has to be in something. I eat chili because it has meat in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't eat meat. There's just nothing else I eat that has meat. I'm not going to eat it by itself. I'm not going to eat it as a separate portion of a meal. It has to be inside of the food I'm eating, or I'm not going to eat it. I'm not a vegetarian. I'll start that in English again. But back when my wife was alive, back when she first had heart surgery, when she moved into an adult family home, for whatever reason, one of the symptoms of what I was going through is I could not eat meat at all. Just even the thought of me eating meat made me sick. I wanted to vomit. I couldn't do it. So for a while, all I could eat was vegetables. I wanted to eat meat, but even thinking about it, it was like, couldn't do it. That never really went away. It's gotten less, but it's always been there. Even the thought of liquid diet, having things like chicken broth, just even the thought makes me ill. So I've got a lot of Jell-O, and I'm going to be having, probably stuff like Gatorade, pale Gatorade tomorrow. Oh well, life is life, but at least it's going to get done, and that's a good thing. And then, oh yeah, shout out. I wanted to try and do a shout out for people. Somebody who had left a comment yesterday was Sir Schmuckle. Thank you, Sir Schmuckle, for having watched, and if you're watching today, and if you're not, well, everybody else knows that I'm thanking Sir Schmuckle. Yay! It's a very good thing. There's more that I wanted to say about things, but oh yes, I remember now, 4 minutes into it. If you're a Patreon patron, thumbs up and thank you. You are beautiful and awesome. Thumbs up. Yay! Without your help, things would be a lot more difficult. Oof. So, yay. Very, very cool. I have some other things written down on my list up here. One of the things that actually happened, I was thinking about my wife, my late wife, and I actually led up to and started thinking about the last time that she was alive and conscious. And I was able to build up and think about it all the way up to the very, very end. And thinking of the very last time I saw her conscious was when, and she went into I can't remember the name of what the falling into the coma part is at the end when you fall asleep and you never wake back up. Just before that part, when she saw me, because I came into view, she burst into this big brilliant smile and went, "Hi." So that was good. But I was able to think about that, and while I had a lot of tears in my eyes at the time, well, 5 years ago it would have been debilitating. So grief gets far enough behind you that eventually you can look at it and it doesn't blind you. So how about that? But going on with that again, mind is a function of brain. Now, I can say that and assert that, and I don't have any studies that I personally have done, but there is a lot of evidence that points to just the simple fact that our mind is a function of brain. I've talked about this guy, Austin, I can't remember his last name, but he's a young guy, hair hasn't even gone gray yet, and he had a stroke after open heart surgery. And it was horrible for him. I mean, it's still horrible for him now. I mean, one of the things that happened, even with his heart surgery now, is he's been in tachycardia. His heartbeat has been 100 beats per minute baseline ever since then. And then if he gets upset or anything, or tries to exercise too much, it only goes up. So really, he's exhausted all the time too. And he can't stress himself much or his heart's going to go crazy. So he has to spend most of his time lying in bed. But one of the things that happens when you've had a stroke, of course, is part of your brain dies. And while you can recover and even make a full recovery, you will never be who you were before the stroke. You can't. Part of your brain is physically dead. It died during that stroke. Recovering, that part of your brain will always have died. You can't become the person that you were before the stroke, because that part of you that made you who you were is dead. So there's a new you. It may be a subtle change. It may be a very loud and unfortunate change. But that's the new you. Because you are a function of your mind. And your mind is a function of your brain. And if you damage the brain, you damage the mind. And yeah, he puts it that way. His mind is damaged because of this, because his brain is damaged. It sucks. Oh my God. I do not want to have a stroke. Thumbs up for not having a stroke. What else do I have on my list? Oh yes. When I talk about solo role-playing and the solo role-playing games I have and the solo board games I have, and I talk about wanting to play them and how I don't play them as much, but how I've been working on this setting for the solo RPG stuff, and I find that so much more fascinating than the actual playing of characters and rolling of dice. The thing is, working on world building the way I've been doing is still solo role-playing. Think of computer games. Yeah, you have the shooters, first-person shooters, where you are boots on the ground carrying a gun into action. That's one type of game. But then you start going upward to tactical games and strategic games. And then there's the grand strategy games. And in a grand strategy game, like Hearts of Iron by Parallax, you have a grand strategy where you are doing an entire nation with all the fleets and everything. And the whole world is reacting. And that's what I'm doing. It's like grand strategic role playing. Because instead of armies and running up against another army and then, well, how well do the things do? I don't have to roll dice. I just decide. I'm making it this grand strategy where forces act and then the continents move. You're still directing things and actions are being made down to individuals. Only I don't need to roll any dice and I don't need to write down anything on paper because it's interesting enough to do up here. And then talk about, because as fun as it is to do all just in my head, while I can't really write it out, at least right now, I do love talking about it. And if I can share that stuff in this fashion, then that's awesome too, because I love sharing this stuff. But yeah, it's solo role-playing in a much more strategic fashion, figuring out what's happening in the world. So thumbs up. Speaking on that too, there are two types of system for maps and mapping that I've seen so far in the solo role-playing field. There's like D100 Dungeon and a couple others where each of the rooms is a square. So that you can just, like if you wanted to, and a lot of people do for their own DIY stuff, is print out the paper, maybe make it bigger or smaller depending on how big you want the grids, put it on cardboard or some similar paper, cut it out, and then do their own mapping with little pieces that way. Issue is when you come to a game like 4 Against Darkness, where there's no real shape. With D100 Dungeon and other rooms like that, they are, each piece, each tile you pick up is an entire room, and they're all represented on the same size of square. But like on 4 Against Darkness, even though it doesn't change anything in the game, because you don't use miniatures except to go, oh, these are behind you, these are ahead of you. Past that, there's nothing more strategic. But they are all weird shaped. So you might have one room that's shaped like a fork with 3 tines. And then you'd have to cut that out, and it's not going to fit isometrically on, well, not isometrically, geomorphically? However the word would be. It's not going to fit on just a grid. So that part's unfortunate. One of the things I have been thinking of doing, and I could do, so I'm really hoping I can actually do it, is to print out the page, well, enlarge the image, and then print out 4 images so that I have all of the squares, and then put those on the cardboard with like a glue stick, and then cut out each of the squares. Then I wouldn't have to draw. I could just draw a tile that I have, make it my own form of the mapping game, and not have to spend $65. Because the mapping game for D100 Dungeon costs $65. It's going to be a long time before I can get up anything to spend that much money on a game, when right now I got my GoFundMe link down below for getting a computer, because I don't really have one that I can do a whole lot of stuff on. I was sent a laptop. It's a good, oh my god, I forgot to change the power things. I was sent a laptop, good piece of hardware. There's only a couple things that it can't do: edit videos and play most games, but it's still a nice piece of hardware. But I'm trying to get, through my GoFundMe, some donations and such, so that I can get an actual computer that I can do gaming on, that I can do video editing on. So I need to advertise the GoFundMe. I know that. I do a terrible job of it by not doing that at all. What else do I have up there? Oh, this was a figuring out things. So as I talked about how I was so dizzy the other day, my mouse keeps on. It's a suck mouse. It's awful. It's a Walmart mouse. How I was getting so dizzy. Somebody in the comments, somebody who's sometimes not that pleasant in what they're saying, but I think they're a more vinegar type of person in the equation. You know, you draw more flies with vinegar, with honey than with vinegar, but a lot of people use vinegar instead of honey anyway, and they appear to be that kind of person. One of the comments they left was, for my dizziness, they said, sounds like too much gabapentin. And I've had people in the comments say, I've had reactions like that from gabapentin. I have a high tolerance to damn near everything. So the amount of gabapentin that I sometimes end up taking isn't the issue itself. It's how it happens. I had basically accidentally cold turkeyed off of gabapentin because I went for a full 36 hours before I realized I stopped taking it. Oops. So I had essentially cold turkey off of a pretty powerful neurotransmitter. Not a smart thing to do. So I was mostly off of it, and then I slammed in double the amount I had been on. Yeah, it took care of my pain, but it also hit my system like a tidal wave. You're supposed to taper off. You're supposed to taper on. You're not supposed to cold turkey off. You're not supposed to slam double the amount that you were taking to get back on. But I was hurting so much I couldn't do anything else. And it worked. I stopped hurting. But oh boy. So, to my satisfaction, I can safely say, to my satisfaction, which means it's not 100%, but to my satisfaction, that it was the gabapentin. Because that day was bad. The next day, I felt it a little. The next day, not really. Today, I feel awesome. So, I think it was that. And is there anything else up there? Yes. When I've been talking about lately, the despair and crushing atmosphere of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. One thing to remember is there is still hope, because these things are not direct representations of what the wasteland is. Any computer game can only be a metaphor. The Wastelanders are not acting exactly like the Wastelanders act, because they're supposed to be representations of real people. They are metaphors for the people that live in the Wasteland. One thing that happens, especially in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, it's mostly raiders that fill this purpose, but I'll talk about that. But in Fallout 3, I've noticed there's always more Wastelanders out there. I see a lot of them get killed here and there. There's bodies and corpses that you run across all the time. But at the same time, there's always more Wastelanders. An area isn't depopulated. You still find people there, even if you go through and depopulate the area. Metaphorically, it has to be empty because that's all they can show. I can hear somebody's smoke alarm going off. Earlier today, I heard somebody else's smoke alarm going off. You heard my smoke alarm go off the other day in video. Oh my God, I hate these systems. The problem is, of course, since everybody's having the problem and it happens so often, people are going to just ignore it. And then what happens when there's a real fire? Everybody's so used to it, they're just going to ignore it. But yes, in Fallout New Vegas, though, of course, that part is taken by... Oh, my hair. That part is not... Gosh darn, what did I do with my... Here we are. Instead of wastelanders, there are always new raiders that you come across. No matter how many of the fiends you take out, there are always more lunatic fiends that will rush at you to be wiped out. You may not come across any of like the cons or whatever, but there's always there's always some form of crazy person that will show up. The wasteland is not thoroughly depopulated. There are people. It's just that the game, especially the game engine being used, it can't show that. So as bleak and awful and terrible as all that is shown, it's for atmosphere. In reality, there's more people, but metaphorically, this is the way it is. So yeah, there's hope. There's hope. I just don't like that, the way they do it. And plus, if you're still watching, and not many people end up watching these this far at least, if you could type Omron, and you might not be, it might be backwards, OMRON, into the comments to show me and the YouTube algorithm that you watch these videos, that would be awesome. Here's one of the bigger reasons why Fallout 4 feels wrong for me. I was watching Tim Kaine when he's talking about player skill versus character skill. Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, all the previous Fallouts, when your character does something, it is up to your character's skill. Not your skill at doing something, your character's ability to do something. If you're doing a lockpick game, yeah, it's your skill, but it gets easier the better you do something. So you don't have to go, and use so many lockpicks. You can just go, oh, there's a little resistance, move it over this way, little resistance, instead of snap. Whereas Fallout 4 is a looter shooter. It's player skill. You're aiming your gun because you're trying to just be a looter shooter. Character skill? That doesn't matter. There is no character skill. It's all player, not character. There is no character progression. It's all player. That was another thing that Tim Kaine was talking about that it addressed one of my issues. One of the reasons I don't like Todd Howard's game design, head of Bethesda right now, is his view is pick up an axe and feel awesome. So if you're in Skyrim and you pick up a weapon and you wave that weapon around like an idiot, if it contacts a bad guy, they take a large amount of damage and they will die. Whereas Tim Kaine's view on that is if you have a low skill in like a weapon, sure, you can wave it around like an idiot. Of course, that makes sense. If comes in contact with a bad guy, of course it's going to do. You're going to hit him. But it should be, if you're just, you're some lunatic, first level, you pick up that sword, it might be the death sword of the gods. But you're waving it around doing 1 or 2 points of damage because you're no one. And as you become more powerful, you become better at the sword. So if you have 100 points on that sword, you should have a range of like, 6,995 to 7,000 points of damage. Whereas if you're just a first level putz that picks it up with 1 point in it, 1 or 2 points. Because you're waving it around like an idiot. Because you're an idiot. You're not going to be killing people. So that's the system I like. Not pick up this weapon, wave it around at first level, and everything in front of you dies the way they tend to do. Not a looter shooter, but player skill in things. Not player skill, character. Oh well, that's just me. And this is almost an hour, half hour, not an hour. And I've talked about all my stuff there. So thank you for watching and listening. And if you put this on in the background, as I actually don't mind people and actually suggest people do, thank you so very much. If you've listened to me, Wow, Gabapentin. If you've left me a comment, thumbs up and thank you. It is appreciated. I read as many comments as YouTube lets me know arrive. I answer as many as my nerve compression will let me. It's not as many as I would like, but it's as many as I can. So you and Patreon members, when you look in the mirror, you're all beautiful and awesome. In fact, everybody who watches is beautiful and awesome. Thumbs up and thank you. Oh, excuse me. It's hard to talk when your body wants to eject a pocket of air. Well, I'm going to edit this, render, upload, try and do what I can do. That would be a good thing. I gotta make some phone calls for later. I still have some doubled up stuff. Yay. And hopefully you can get done the things that you would like to get done, and if you can't, don't beat yourself up. It's not going to help you get it done later. So, until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and that is indeed a very, very good thing. No words of wisdom or great philosophical truths. I was too tired. When I woke up and it was 11:55, I at first thought I was late getting to bed, and then it was almost midnight. So, thumbs up for confusion.